The human colony on planet Arvin was small compared to the endless plains that surrounded it. The air shimmered faintly with silver dust, and the twin suns painted the ground in gold each morning. Most people stayed close to the central dome where the oxygen level was steady, and the walls gave safety from the unknown creatures of the planet. But Leo was not like most people. He worked as a field engineer, one of the few who fixed the tall energy towers that powered the colony. He liked the silence outside the walls, where the air hummed softly and the strange grass bent like waves in a quiet sea. He felt peaceful there. Leo's day began early. He packed his small repair kit, wore his gray uniform, and took the small crawler vehicle out toward the West Tower. The tower had stopped sending energy signals during the night, and the control center wanted it fixed before the next sunset. Leo didn't mind. He liked working alone. As he drove over the rolling plain, he looked at the horizon. In the far distance, faint shapes like giant stones moved slowly across the light. They were not stones at all. They were the Vorlons, the enormous beings who shared this planet with humans. No one really understood them. They lived in quiet valleys beyond the colony limits, walking like living mountains. Each step they took sent small tremors through the ground. The colony laws said to avoid them. Humans and Vorlons had an agreement: stay apart and live in peace. But sometimes when the weather was clear, Leo could see their silhouettes far away, shining in the sunlight. He always wondered what they were like up close. Were they kind? Were they cold? Or did they see humans as nothing more than tiny insects? By midday, Leo reached the tower. It was tall, made of smooth silver panels, its base buried in rock. The problem was simple. The energy converter had jammed. Leo started working, climbing the maintenance ladder with careful steps. The sky was clear and a soft wind moved through the field. He didn't notice the shadow at first. It stretched slowly across the ground beside the tower. When he turned, his breath caught. A giant figure stood in the distance. She was at least 20 times taller than him, her silver-blue skin shining faintly under the suns. Her long, dark hair fell like rivers of glass down her shoulders. Her eyes were bright, almost glowing with soft light. She was a Varlan woman. Leo froze where he stood. The Giantess was looking straight at him. She didn't move at first, only tilted her head slightly as if studying something tiny and new. Leo's heart pounded. He remembered the colony rules. Never approach a Vorlan, never speak to them, and never make eye contact for too long. But the Giantess did not seem angry or dangerous. Her expression was curious, gentle even. She took a slow step forward, and the ground trembled lightly under Leo's feet. He wanted to run, but something held him still. Maybe it was the way she looked at him. Not like a human would look at a small creature, but as if she was truly interested. Her voice came next, deep and smooth, carried by the wind like thunder turned soft. "You are not afraid?" she asked. Leo swallowed. "Should I be?" he said quietly. The Giantess smiled. "Most humans run when they see us." Leo took a breath. "You don't look like someone I should run from." She seemed surprised by that answer. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she knelt down, lowering herself closer to his height. Even kneeling, she was taller than the tower beside him. Her eyes shone like two bright oceans. "What is your name, small one?" she asked. "Leo," he said. His voice trembled slightly, but he forced a small smile. "And yours?" "Mira," she said. "I am of the Vorlan tribes." Leo nodded slowly. He didn't know what else to say. He had never spoken to one of her kind before. Every story he had heard painted them as distant, proud beings who saw humans as weak. Yet here she was, speaking softly, watching him with calm eyes. Mira tilted her head again, studying the tower beside him. "You build these things," she said. "They hum in the air. They make the wind warm." "Yes," Leo said. "They power our colony. Keep our lights running, our home safe." She smiled slightly. "You make light from air." "That is clever." He didn't know why, but her words made him smile too. "Thank you," he said. "You're very observant." She looked at him again, and the air between them seemed to still. Leo felt awkward under her gaze. Without thinking, he said, "You have really beautiful eyes." The words just came out, simple, honest, and small. But the moment they left his mouth, the air seemed to change. Mira's eyes widened slightly. Her breath caught. For a second, she looked almost shocked. Then slowly, her lips curved into a soft, surprised smile. Among the Vorlons, compliments were rare. Their people valued silence and respect. Words like that were not spoken lightly. To praise someone's eyes meant more than beauty. It meant trust, it meant connection. "You honor me," she said quietly. Leo blinked, not understanding. "I didn't mean to offend." She shook her head gently, and her voice was soft like the whisper of the wind. "You did not offend me. You did something few have done." She stood up again, her shadow stretching over the plain. Leo looked up at her, still amazed. "You are brave, Leo," she said, "and kind." He felt his cheeks grow warm. "I only spoke the truth." She gave a slow nod. "Truth is a strong thing among your kind and mine." They stood there for a long moment, saying nothing. The silence was not heavy. It felt calm, like two strangers sharing something simple but meaningful. At last, Mira took a step back. "I will remember this meeting," she said. "Perhaps our paths will cross again." Leo nodded, still unsure if he had just made a friend or started a mistake. "I hope so." She turned and began walking away. Each step sent small waves through the earth. When she reached the far hill, she looked back once more and lifted her hand in a gesture that looked like a farewell. Leo raised his hand too. When she disappeared beyond the ridge, the plain grew quiet again. Leo stood beside the tower, his heart still racing. He felt like something inside him had shifted. He finished his repair and returned to the crawler. As he drove back to the colony, the suns began to set, turning the sky orange and gold. He couldn't stop thinking about her, about the way she spoke, the way her voice filled the air like music. He remembered her eyes, calm and full of depth. A simple compliment, he thought. Just words. But they had changed something. When Leo entered the colony gates, the guard scanned his vehicle. One of them asked if he saw any Vorlons outside. Leo hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. "No," he said. "Just the wind and the plains." That night he couldn't sleep. He sat by his small window looking out at the stars. Somewhere beyond the hills, Mira walked under the same sky, maybe remembering his words. Leo smiled softly to himself. He didn't know what this new connection meant. He only knew it was real, and deep inside, he felt that this was only the beginning of something much greater than he could imagine. He thought about how small he must have looked beside her. Yet she didn't treat him like a bug. She listened. She spoke kindly. That one moment made him feel seen in a way he never had before. As the night deepened, a quiet thought stayed in his mind. Sometimes he realized a single kind word could reach across worlds, across size, across fear. And somewhere in the distance, under the silver moons, Mira whispered the same thought to herself. Days passed since the strange meeting on the plain, but Mira could not forget the small human who spoke to her without fear. His words stayed in her mind clear and warm. She had met humans before from far away, but never one who looked straight into her eyes and spoke with simple honesty. That single compliment had touched something inside her, something she did not understand yet. Among the Vorlons, feelings were not often shared. They lived quietly, their voices slow, their lives long. They did not use many words. Their kind measured time in ages, not years, and their emotions were deep but hidden. So when Mira thought of Leo, she felt something rare, a spark of curiosity mixed with calm joy. She walked along the silver hills where her tribe lived. Each hill rose like a wave frozen in time, and between them grew tall trees with glass-like leaves. The air shimmered softly as light passed through them. Her elder sister Vera noticed the change in her mood. "You look distracted," Vera said, in a voice like a low drum. "Your thoughts are walking somewhere else." Mira smiled faintly. "I met a human," she said. "He was small but not afraid. He spoke kindly." Vera's eyes narrowed. "A human. You know the old rule, we do not mix with them. They stay in their metal homes and we in our valleys. That peace has kept us safe." "I know," Mira said softly. "But this one was different. He did not run. He spoke to me like an equal." Vera frowned. "Their kind seeks power, not peace. Remember that, sister. They build their towers and cut the land. They will forget their promises one day." Mira did not answer. She respected Vera, but something inside her told her this human was not like the story said. That night, as the two suns set, Mira stood on a hill and looked toward the far lights of the human colony. They shimmered like stars at the edge of the world. She wondered if Leo was there working, fixing his strange machines. She wanted to see him again, in the human colony. Leo had also not forgotten her. He went back to his usual work, fixing energy panels and checking the dome systems, but his mind often drifted to the tall figure with calm eyes. He felt no fear, only wonder. He had told no one about her. The officials at the colony center would not understand. They always said the Vorlans should be left alone because peace came from distance. Leo agreed with that rule before, but now he was not sure. He had seen something different in Mira's eyes. Not pride, not anger, but kindness. One afternoon, while he was repairing a weather sensor near the same area he had met her, he looked at the horizon again. Part of him hoped she would appear, but the plain was empty and quiet. The tall silver grass moved slowly under. The twin suns. He sighed and kept working. Then the ground gave a soft tremor, not strong enough to alarm him, but enough to make his tools shake in his hand. He looked up and froze again. Far in the distance, a tall figure was walking toward him. Each step sent a soft vibration through the soil. The same calm presence filled the air as before. Mira had come back. Leo's heart lifted as he saw her. Her long shadow stretched across the land. She stopped a short distance away and lowered herself carefully, onto one knee. She looked at him with a gentle smile. "I hoped you would come again," she said. Leo smiled shyly. "I come here often for work. I fix the towers. I watched you from the hills." She said, "You work with great care and patience." He laughed lightly. "Thank you, I try not to break anything." Her eyes shone as she studied him again. "Your people create many things from small hands. I do not understand how you do it." "It's simple," he said. "We build because we need to survive. We don't have strength like yours, we use ideas instead." "That is strength too," Mira said softly. "Different but strong." Her words made Leo pause. He had never thought of it that way. They talked for a while about their worlds. Mira told him about the long seasons of her tribe, the floating rivers in the mountains, and how they listened to the stars to predict time. Leo told her about the colony's growing farms, the mining projects, and how humans dreamed of making this world their new home. As they spoke, the suns began to sink, turning the plains red and orange. The light made Mira's eyes glow softly, and Leo could see warmth in them. At one point, Mira leaned closer, lowering her hand near the ground. "You are so small," she said, not in mockery but in wonder. "And yet you stand so firmly." Leo smiled. "Maybe size doesn't decide courage." She looked at him quietly, then nodded. "Perhaps not." Later that evening, as Leo returned to the colony, he felt lighter inside. He had spoken to her again, and nothing bad happened. In fact, it felt natural. It was strange but good. He thought about how her voice sounded calm and deep, like distant thunder, yet never harsh. He wished he could record it just to listen again in her valley. Mira sat near the glowing lake, watching the stars appear. She thought of the humans' words again. Her people always believed humans were impatient, always taking, always wanting more. Yet this one seemed different. She reached into the water and let it ripple around her fingers. "A small one with brave eyes," she whispered. "What makes him speak so kindly?" The next few weeks brought more meetings. Each time Leo went to check the towers, Mira found a reason to wander. Nearby. Sometimes she asked about human machines. Sometimes she just listened quietly while he worked. They began to learn from each other slowly and simply. Leo showed her how the energy cells worked, using light to create power. Mira showed him how her people could sense storms through vibrations in the ground. They discovered that both species looked at the same stars, but gave them different names. It felt like friendship, something neither had expected to find across such a great difference, but word began to spread among the Vorlans. The valley dwellers noticed Mira walking far to the edge of their lands. They saw her looking toward the human colony, and whispers began. Some said she was being foolish. Others said she was breaking the old rule. One day, Vera confronted her again. "You go too near them, Mira," she said. "You speak with one of them. The elders will not like this. They will think you bring danger." Mira looked at her calmly. The danger is not in speaking. The danger is in not understanding. Each time I meet him, I learn something new." Vera shook her head. "You risk much for a small creature. He cannot understand our ways." "Maybe," Mira said. "But I wish to understand his." She turned away and walked toward the hills, leaving Vera silent behind her. Back in the colony, Leo also faced questions. His team leader noticed how often he volunteered for outer field repairs. "You seem to like the far zone," the man said. "Be careful, the Vorlons live. Out there you should keep distance." Leo nodded but said nothing. Inside he felt that keeping distance would be the real mistake. The more he saw Mira, the more he understood how little humans knew about the Vorlons. They were not monsters. They were wise, ancient, and thoughtful. He started to record his observations secretly, not for study but for memory. He described her calm tone, her interest in human inventions, and the way she respected every living thing, one night after another meeting. Leo gave Mira a small object, a smooth silver pendant shaped like a star. "A gift," he said. "Something small to remember a friend." Mira looked at it carefully, holding it between two fingers. The star looked tiny against her huge hand. "It is beautiful," she said softly. "You made this." "Yes, it is simple metal shaped with heat. It is not much." "It is more than much," she said. "It is meaning." She hung the pendant on a thread of crystal fiber and placed it around her neck. "Now I carry your world near my heart," she said. Leo smiled. "And I carry your friendship in mine." For a moment they looked at each other and said nothing, but in that silence, something true passed between them, a quiet respect and gentle warmth. The wind moved across the plains softly as if carrying their thoughts away to the stars. That night in her valley, Mira sat beside the glowing lake again. She touched the small silver pendant and thought about the human named Leo. Her heart felt strange, lighter than usual. She whispered to the wind, "He is different. He sees us not as giants, but as beings like himself." And in the human colony, Leo wrote in his private journal, "She is not just a giantess. She is wise, kind, and curious. Maybe friendship can exist even when worlds stand apart." Both of them fell asleep under the same twin moons without knowing how much their bond would change everything that came after. The days of peace between Leo and Mira continued quietly. At first they met whenever Leo's work took him to the outer fields, and each meeting felt calm and new. Mira always brought questions about humans and their strange way of living. She listened closely when Leo explained their machines and their hopes for the colony. She liked his way of speaking with gentle humor and steady confidence. But peace is a fragile thing, especially when fear and old habits hide beneath it. Among the Vorlons, rumors had begun to spread. Some of the hunters returning from the plains said they saw Mira near the human towers. Others claimed they saw her talking to a small human. The whispers grew louder with every passing night. The elders of her tribe gathered in the high hall to speak of it. Their leader, a tall, gray-skinned being named Tharon, looked troubled. "Mira was always curious," he said in a deep voice, "but now her curiosity walks too close to danger. The humans may see this as weakness. They may think we seek alliance or worse, dependence." Vira stood beside him, her face calm but eyes worried. "She says the human is kind and brave. She believes he wishes for peace." "Peace is not the problem," Tharon said. "Trust is the humans. Speak softly but build their metal homes wider each year. They take more land, they dig deeper into the ground, they will not stop. If she stands with them, she may be used as their bridge." The others murmured in agreement. Vera stayed silent. Her heart was torn between loyalty to her people and love for her sister. When Mira returned that night, she found Vera waiting. "The elders know," Vera said. "They are angry. They say you have shamed the tribe." Mira looked down at her hands. "I did not shame anyone. I only spoke with a friend." "Then stop now before they forbid you to leave the valley." Mira raised her eyes, calm and steady. "If they forbid me, they must tell me why. It is not wrong to speak. It is wrong to live in fear of others." Vera wanted to argue, but she saw that her sister's mind was firm. The night wind moved between them, carrying only silence. At the same time, trouble was growing inside the human colony too. One of the field drones had captured an image of a giant shadow near the West Tower. The image was blurry but clear enough to show a tall figure standing near a small human vehicle. The Council of Officers reviewed it at once. Commander Holt frowned. "That looks like a Vorlan," the chief technician nodded. "Yes, sir, and it seems one of our workers is there too, possibly Engineer Leo." The commander sighed. "If he is meeting with them, he is breaking protocol. We have no permission for contact. We must maintain boundaries or they will think we are trying to invade their land." The technician hesitated. "Leo has always been responsible, sir. Maybe it was an accident." "Maybe," Holt said, "but we will keep him under watch." The next morning, Leo was called to the control dome and the air inside felt colder than usual. The commander stood near the table, his arms crossed. "Engineer Leo," he said, "we have seen reports of activity near the border. Explain why your crawler was found outside the permitted zone 3 times this week." Leo kept his tone steady. "I was repairing the West Tower, sir. The sandstorms there damaged 2 sensors. I had to test them from different points." Holt looked straight at him. "Did you see any Vorlans out there?" Leo hesitated for only a second. "No, sir, none close by." The commander studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Be careful, engineer. The peace between us and them is fragile. Do not give them reason to doubt it." "Understood." "Yes, sir," Leo said. When he walked out of the dome, his heart beat fast. He hated lying, but he could not tell them about Mira. If the colony learned about her, they might see her as a threat or worse, a tool for study. That evening, he went back to the plains pretending to check tower signals. But in truth, he needed to see Mira again. The sky was golden when she appeared from behind the ridge. Her steps were slow, her eyes thoughtful. When she reached him, she did not smile like before. She seemed worried. "You look troubled," Leo said. "Is something wrong?" "My people know about us," she said softly. "They think I am foolish. They say I should stay away from humans." Leo sighed. "My people found out too. They warned me not to come here anymore. They say it is dangerous." Mira lowered herself to the ground, her voice quiet. "Perhaps it is. They fear what they do not know. We do the same." Leo sat on a rock beside her, hand resting on his knees. "Then what do we do now?" She looked at him for a moment, her eyes calm but sad. "I do not know. But I do not wish to forget this friendship. It has shown me another side of your kind." Leo nodded. "And you've shown me that giants can be gentle and wise. I wish others could see you the way I do." Her lips curved slightly. "Then maybe one day they will." They stayed there as the sun sank lower. The sky turned red and gold, the plain glowing like fire. Leo told her stories about Earth, about blue oceans and snow-covered mountains. Mira listened as if she could see those places in her mind. She told him about the first time her people saw the human ships arriving from the sky, how they watched the lights fall like stars and wondered if gods had come. The 2 worlds felt so different, yet their hearts understood each other perfectly, but peace could not last forever. A young Vorlan named Darren, who disliked humans, followed Mira one afternoon to the plains. He hid behind a ridge and saw her kneeling beside Leo, speaking gently. Darren's eyes burned with anger. He returned to the valley and told the elders that Mira was meeting humans in secret. That same night, Tharun called a meeting. "She must answer for this," he said. "If she defies our law, she risks bringing war." Vera tried to defend her. "She means no harm." But her words were ignored. The elders decided that Mira would be forbidden to leave the valley for a full moon cycle. Guards would watch the outer paths. Mira heard the judgment in silence. She bowed her head slightly but did not promise to obey. Meanwhile, the human commander grew more suspicious. He ordered a drone patrol over the plains. The drones moved silently under the moons, recording everything. When one of them captured clear images of Mira's tall figure leaning close to a human, their fears were confirmed. Holt slammed his hand on the table. "This is proof. They are studying us or testing our patience. We cannot allow this contact." The council agreed. They placed a tracker on Leo's crawler and restricted his field access until further notice. Leo discovered it the next morning when he tried to start his crawler and found the control code locked. He went to the main office where his friend Clara worked in communication. She looked at him with worry. "They think you're hiding something, Leo. The commander says you went too close to the Vorlan lands." Leo rubbed his forehead. "Clara, you know me. I'm not doing anything wrong. I just talked to one of them. She's not dangerous. She saved me once." From a falling structure near the West Ridge, Clara lowered her voice. "Even if that's true, they won't listen. The council only sees risk. You should be careful. They might remove you from field duty." Leo nodded slowly. His heart felt heavy. He knew he could not stop seeing Mira yet. Every step now carried danger. That night he made a plan. He packed a small tool bag and sneaked out through a side gate before dawn. The sky was still dark blue when he reached the plains. He waited near the tower, hoping Mira would sense his presence. For a while there was only silence. Then the ground trembled lightly and her tall form appeared between the hills. She looked tired, but when she saw him, she smiled softly. "You came," she said. "Had to," he answered. "They are watching me. I may not be able to leave the colony again." Mira lowered her head slightly. "The elders have forbidden me to come here too. They fear what we share." Leo looked at her with quiet sadness. "Maybe. They are right to fear it. We are different. But maybe that difference is what can change everything." She gazed at him with deep, calm eyes. "Change begins with courage. You have that, Leo." He smiled faintly. "So do you, Mira." The first rays of morning light touched the plains, turning the air golden. Mira lifted her hand gently, placing it near the ground. Her massive fingers rested beside him as softly as a leaf touching water. "Then let this not be the end," she said. "Even if we cannot meet again, remember that a single word once joined two distant hearts." Leo looked up at her and nodded. "I will remember." They stayed like that for a long, quiet moment. Two beings from different worlds sharing the same light. The wind moved around them, carrying no sound, only understanding. When Leo returned to the colony, the gates closed behind him. He looked back once at the horizon where the silver hills met the rising suns. Somewhere beyond them, Mira stood under the same sky, thinking of him. Both of them knew a storm was coming. Not of weather, but of choices and change. The friendship that started with a simple compliment had now become something larger than either of them expected. It had reached the ears of those who ruled both sides, and soon that bond would be tested by fear, trust, and destiny. The days after the rumors had been quiet at first, but both Mira and Leo knew the calm would not last. Mira stayed near the valley but could not leave completely. Leo continued his work in the colony, but the council's orders made it impossible for him to go near the outer plains freely. Still, both of them thought about each other often, remembering the quiet moments and the small gifts of understanding they had shared. One afternoon, the sky over Arvin began to darken unusually fast. The twin suns were high, but a thin shadow moved across the plains. Leo was working on a tall energy relay tower when the shadow stretched over him. He looked up and felt the hairs on his neck rise. "Not another drill," he muttered to himself. But this was no drill. Pieces of rock and ice from a distant asteroid belt were falling toward Arvin. Small fragments first, then larger chunks. The colony's sensors warned of potential impact, but the tower Leo was fixing was far from the main control center. Communication signals flickered in the storm. The automated defense drones tried to intercept some debris, but many pieces continued to fall. Leo froze as one particularly large fragment hit near the base of the tower, sending a shockwave that made him stumble. Rocks bounced dangerously close. His tools scattered. He realized that if the next impact hit directly, he would have no chance of survival until help arrived. And then he heard it, a deep vibration in the ground. The vibration grew stronger and stronger until it became a steady rhythm, not from the falling rocks, but from the steps of a giant being. Mira was coming. Leo ran toward the base of the tower, holding onto a support beam as a larger piece of rock flew past. Mira's massive hands reached the tower, lifting pieces of debris away with incredible strength. She moved carefully as if the ground and the humans on it were fragile and valuable. Leo, Mira's voice boomed across the plain, shaking the small machines around him but still soft in its tone. Hold on to me. Leo hesitated for only a second, then grabbed her enormous finger. The warmth of her skin surprised him. He felt protected despite the chaos all around. Mira lifted him from the danger zone, her other hand shielding him from falling debris. Each step she took sent tremors, but she moved with precision, avoiding structures as much as she could. From a distance, humans and Vorlons both saw the scene. In the colony, the officers watching the live drone feed could not believe their eyes. A Vorlon Giantess, moving with incredible speed, was rescuing a single human engineer from certain danger. The largest fragments of debris hit the ground near them, sending up clouds of dust. Mira crouched using her massive shoulders as a shield, placing Leo safely between her chest and her arms. The impact shook the earth, but they remained unharmed. Leo looked up at her, awed. "You saved me," he shouted over the sound of debris and wind. Mira shook her head slowly. "I could not let harm come to you. You showed me kindness when none was expected. It is only fair I return it." Leo felt his heart lift. The moment that began with a simple compliment had now grown into something far beyond words. Once the debris storm slowed, Mira carried Leo toward the far edge of the plains, beyond where the colony could be reached quickly. She gently set him down, scanning the area for smaller rocks that could fall. Leo's eyes widened as he saw how much damage the storm had caused. Parts of the tower he had been repairing were destroyed, and some smaller buildings near the colony's edge had sustained heavy hits. Mira knelt down beside him. "You should not be here alone during such storms," she said softly. "You are fragile, but you are clever. Do not confuse bravery with safety." Leo laughed lightly, brushing dust from his uniform. "I guess I learned that the hard way, but I would not have survived without you." Mira looked at him quietly. For a long time she said nothing, her eyes reflecting the gold of the setting suns through the dusty sky. "You are not like the others," she finally said. "Most humans are small in courage as well as size. But you have something rare." Leo blushed. "I only spoke the truth before. I didn't know it mattered so much." "It does," Mira said firmly. "Sometimes a single word changes more than 100 actions. That is what you have done for me." As the last of the debris settled, the wind began to calm. Dust swirled softly across the plain, catching the twin suns' fading light. Mira stayed beside Leo, making sure he was unharmed. Even though she could move mountains, she moved gently, careful not to crush the small human. From the colony, drones recorded the scene. Officers watched, speechless. The story of what they saw would spread quickly. A Vorlon Giantess, a creature of legends, saving a human engineer during a storm of cosmic debris. Meanwhile, in the Vorlan Valley, Mira's elders felt a deep tremor. Vera looked at the hills with wide eyes. "She is out there, with a human," she said. Theron the elder frowned. "It seems she has chosen to ignore us. But she has done what no Vorlan could have expected. She has shown the humans that we can be more than silent giants. This could change everything." Vera remained silent. She wanted to warn Mira but knew it was too late. The moment had already happened. Back on the plains, Leo and Mira found a safer area beside a small ridge. Mira crouched, her massive hands gently moving dirt and rocks aside to make a flat space. Leo marveled at her care. "You have strength beyond imagination," he said, "and you used it to protect me instead of destroying anything." Mira smiled faintly. "Strength without wisdom is dangerous. I have learned that." "You reminded me of it." Leo shook his head. "I did nothing. You acted?" "No," Mira said quietly. "You acted with honesty and kindness. That is what inspired me. I am not so different from you. I can see now that courage is not about size." Leo looked up at her, the sun's light catching her eyes. "I still can't believe I complimented you once and it turned into this." Mira laughed softly. The sound was low and gentle, echoing like soft thunder. "Perhaps it is not the compliment itself, but the truth behind it. You spoke honestly. That mattered more than you think." Leo nodded slowly. He realized how true that was. Small words often carried the weight of mountains. Night came over the plains, and Mira stayed beside Leo until the colony drones could no longer see them clearly. She wanted to ensure he returned safely, but she also felt the quiet peace of being near someone who understood her. "Tomorrow," Mira said, "we will need to leave before more debris falls. You must return to your people safely." Leo hesitated. "And you?" "I will return to my valley," she said. "But I will remember. What we have shared is stronger than fear. It will remain in my heart." Leo smiled softly. "It is the same with me." They spent a quiet moment together, watching the stars appear above the plains. The twin moons rose, silver and gold, and the air shimmered in the soft light. In that moment, the world seemed still. Two very different beings, one human and one giant, shared the same sky and the same understanding. The next morning, Leo returned to the colony. He knew he would face questions and orders, but he also knew something had changed. Mira had shown humans and himself that courage, kindness, and truth could bridge worlds. Mira returned to her valley. Her people waited, and she faced their questions calmly. "The human is brave," she said simply. "And he is kind. That is all that matters." Some elders were shocked. Others were thoughtful. Even the skeptics could not ignore what Mira had done. She had saved a human's life in a storm that could have destroyed them both. That act alone spoke louder than warnings or rules. Deep inside, both Mira and Leo knew this was only the beginning. A bond had formed that would challenge fear, caution, and tradition. But it had also created hope. A hope that humans and Vorlons could see each other not as strange creatures or tiny beings, but as allies, friends, and equals in courage and heart. The plains were calm again. The towers were partially destroyed, but repair would come. The dust settled and the world seemed peaceful. Yet both Mira and Leo understood that the events of that storm would ripple far beyond them. Sometimes, thought Leo, a simple word, a compliment, could create a chain of events stronger than any storm. And somewhere in her valley, Mira thought the same thing. The storm had passed, leaving the plains of Arvin quiet and still. The towers had been damaged, rocks scattered across the fields, and the colony had suffered minor losses. But the humans and Vorlons alike remembered what had happened. Leo stood in the colony's repair center, tools in hand, staring at the tower he had almost lost his life beside. Even as he worked, his mind was far away on the plains, thinking of Mira. She had saved him. Her enormous hands, her calm voice, and the kindness in her eyes had kept him safe. He smiled softly, remembering her gentle words and her quiet strength. The Council of Officers had been forced to acknowledge the truth of the storm. Reports came in from drones, from repair teams, and from sensors. Everyone had seen it. A Vorlon giantess shielding a human from destruction. Commander Holt, who had been strict and cautious before, now looked thoughtful. "This is not something we can ignore," he said to his team. She acted without fear, without hostility. "She saved one of ours?" "Yes, sir," said one technician. "It changes everything." "Perhaps we judged too quickly." Leo worked quietly, fixing the tower's core. Even with the stress of the storm, he felt lighter inside. Mira's courage and care had shown him a new way to look at their world, and at the Vorlons. They were not monsters. They were wise, strong, and capable of great kindness. Meanwhile, Mira returned to her valley. Her tribe was waiting, anxious and tense. Elders and siblings alike gathered to speak with her. Tharun, the elder leader, stood tall before her. "Mira," he said, "you have done what no Vorlon would have dared. You saved a human from death when the rules forbade it. Why?" Mira looked at him steadily, her silver blue eyes shining with quiet light. "Because it was right," she said. "Because he showed me kindness first. He spoke honestly, and he treated me as an equal. That is worth more than rules." The room was silent. Some elders frowned, still fearful. Others looked thoughtful. Even Vera's face softened as she realized the truth of Mira's words. Tharun spoke again, slower this time. "Perhaps we have been blind. We value silence and strength, but sometimes kindness is the stronger power. You have reminded us of that," Mira nodded. "I only followed what I felt. I only remembered that even the smallest words, the smallest gestures can change hearts." Leo knew he could not stay in the outer fields openly yet. The council still warned him to maintain distance, but he did not mind. The bond between him and Mira was not measured by distance. Even a glance at the horizon, even the memory of her smile, gave him strength. He began to write in his private journal every day, recording the events of the storm, her words, her presence, and the lessons he had learned. Every sentence reminded him that courage and honesty were far more powerful than fear. One afternoon, as he walked near the edge of the colony where the plains began, he saw a flicker of silver blue on the horizon. His heart leaped. Mira had come again. This time she did not kneel or hide. She stood tall, serene, and proud, her eyes bright as she looked at him. Leo waved, and Mira waved back with one enormous hand. The wind carried the gesture across the plains, calm and steady. "You came," Leo said, smiling widely. "I promised I would," Mira replied. "Even if my people worry, I could not forget the small one who spoke honestly to me." Leo laughed softly. "I still cannot believe a single compliment started all of this." Mira shook her head. "It was not the words alone. It was the truth behind them. You saw me as I am, not as a giantess, not as a legend, but as a being. That is rare among your kind." Leo's smile softened. "And you saw me as someone more than small and weak. That is why I will never forget you either." They stayed together for hours, talking quietly about the aftermath of the storm, about the repair of the colony, and about the misunderstandings between humans and Vorlons. The air was still, the plains calm, and the twin moons rose slowly, silver and gold. The days passed, and slowly, humans and Vorlons began to notice the bond between Mira and Leo. Some were afraid at first. Others were curious. But when both races saw the storm footage again, and when stories of Mira's courage spread, many began to change their minds. A few elders of Mira's tribe came to her and admitted that they had been wrong. "You have shown us the humans can be more than we feared," one said. "Perhaps we have been too cautious, too distant." The humans also began to see that Vorlons were not only strong, but also wise and capable of friendship. Commander Holt spoke to Leo privately. "You have changed how we see them," he said. "Not with machines or weapons, but with respect." "That is rare," Leo nodded. "It was simple honesty and kindness that started it. That is all it ever took." One evening, Leo brought a small gift for Mira. It was a wooden sculpture shaped like the twin moons of Arvin, polished smooth. He had carved it himself during spare hours, thinking she might like something from the human world. Mira looked at it, holding it gently with her enormous hands. "It is beautiful," she said softly. "You have shared your world with me again," Leo smiled. "And you have shared yours with me. That is more valuable than anything." She hung the small sculpture on a thread of crystal fiber around her neck. "Now I carry both our worlds near my heart," she said. He looked up at her, feeling small but proud. "And I carry our friendship in mine," he said. They stood together as the moons rose high, lighting the plains in silver and gold. In that quiet moment, humans and Vorlons seemed far away, and nothing mattered except the bond they had formed. Time passed, and the story of the storm and Mira's brave act spread across both worlds. Humans told the tale of the giantess who saved a human engineer. Vorlons spoke of the small human who treated a giantess with honesty and respect. Children of both species listened in awe and learned a lesson that adults often forgot. Courage and kindness mattered more than size or fear. Leo continued his work in the colony, teaching new engineers how to maintain the towers. Mira continued her life in the valley, helping her people and learning about humans from afar. But whenever they could, they met in the plains, talking, laughing, and sharing stories. Their friendship became a bridge between worlds. Humans and Vorlons learned to see each other not as strangers or threats, but as allies capable of understanding. The small gestures, the quiet words, the honest compliments, the acts of courage had created something larger than either could have imagined. One evening, under the twin moons, Mira lowered herself carefully near Leo. "Do you remember the first day we met?" she asked softly. Leo smiled. "I do. You scared me so much that I almost dropped my tools." Mira laughed, the sound deep and gentle. "And you gave me a simple compliment." "I did not know it would mean so much." He shook his head. "I did not know either. I only spoke the truth." Her eyes reflected the moon's light. That truth changed everything. For both our worlds. Leo reached up as far as he could and held her finger gently. "I will never forget that day, Mira, never. And I will never forget you, Leo," she said. Our small words and honest hearts became something greater than us both. They stayed under the stars, the plains calm around them, sharing the quiet of understanding and friendship. The twin moons shone softly silver and gold, and the wind carried only peace. From that day on, Humans and Vorlons began to learn from each other, working together, sharing knowledge and respecting one another. They remembered the storm, the courage and the honesty that had started it all. Leo sometimes smiled to himself, thinking a single compliment could change a life. Mira sometimes whispered the same thought to the winds of her valley. Their bond, created by truth and courage, became a story told for generations. A story of two beings from different worlds who discovered that friendship, respect, and small acts of kindness could create the strongest bridge ever built. The plains of Arven were quiet once more, but the memory of that storm, of that giantess, and of that small human engineer would live forever in the hearts of both worlds.